U13-L5, African Women Primary Source Reading. Directions. Read the introduction paragraph in both of the following primary source readings. As you read, answer the questions in the boxes below some of the paragraphs. Then answer the 3 questions in the boxes at the very end. This assignment is worth 8 points. Introduction. We know a great deal about the arrival of the Europeans into the interior of Africa from the perspective of the conquerors, but very little about how the events were experienced by Africans. Here are 2 accounts by African women, one from northern Nigeria, whose land was occupied by the British, and the other from the Congo Free State, a colony of King Leopold II of Belgium. They show not only how Africans experienced European colonial dominance, but also how diverse these African experiences were. Primary source number 1, Baba of Cairo, a Nigerian woman, remembers her childhood. When I was a maiden, the Europeans first arrived. Ever since we were quite small, the Malams had been saying that the Europeans would come with a thing called a train. They would come with a thing called a motor car. In them, you would go and come back in a trice. They would stop wars. They would repair the world. They would stop the oppression and lawlessness. We should live at peace with them. We used to go and sit quietly and listen to their prophecies. I remember when a European came to Cairo on a horse, and some of his foot soldiers went into the town. Everyone came out to look at them, but in Zerera, we didn't see the Europeans. Everyone at Cairo ran away. There's a European. There's a European. At that time, Yusufu was the king of Cairo. He did not like the Europeans. He did not wish them. He would not sign their treaty. Then he said that perforce he would have to agree. So he did. We have wanted them to come. It was the Falanu who did not like it. When the Europeans came, the Habe saw that if you worked for them, they paid you for it. They didn't say, like the Fulani, commoner, give me this. Commoner, bring me that. Yes, the Habe wanted them. They saw no harm in them. The Europeans said that there were to be no more slaves. If someone said slave, you could complain to the alkali, who would punish the master who said it. The judge said, that's what the Europeans have decreed. The first order said that any slave, if he was younger than you, was your younger brother. If he was older than you, was your elder brother. They were all brothers of their master's family. No one used the word slave anymore. When slavery was stopped, nothing much happened at Arinji, except for some slaves who we had bought in the market ran away. Our own father went to his farm and worked. He and his sons took up their large hoes. They loaned out their spare farms. Soho, our father, and Kadiri, my brother, with whom I lived now, and Babambo, who worked. They farmed guinea corn and millet and groundnuts and everything. Before this, they had supervised the slaves' work. Now, they did their own. In the old days, if the chief liked the look of your daughter, he would take her and put her in his house. You could not do nothing about it. Now, they don't do that. Primary source number 2. Ilonga. A Congolese woman recounts her capture by agents of the Congo Free State. We were all busy in the fields, hoeing our plantations, for it was the rainy season and the weeds sprang quickly up, when a runner came to the village saying that a large band of men was coming, that they all wore red caps and blue cloth, and carried guns and long knives, and that many white men were with them, the chief of whom was Kabalanga, the African name for a force public officer named Oscar Michoud, who once received a sword of honor from Leopold's own hands. Niendo, the chief of the village that Ilonga is in, at once called all the chief men to his house, while the drums were beaten to summon the people to the village. A long consultation was held, and finally we were all told to go quietly to the field and bring in groundnuts, plantains, and cassava, for the warriors who were coming, and goats and fowls for the white men. The women all went with baskets and filled them, and then put them in the road. Niendo thought that, by giving presents of much food, he would induce the strangers to pass on without harming us, and so it proved. When the white men and their warriors had gone, we went again to our work, and were hoping that they would not return. But this they did in a very short time. As before, we brought in great heaps of food, but this time Kabalanga did not move away directly, but camped near our village, and a soldier's command stole all our fowls and goats and tore up our cassava. But we did not mind that as long as they did not harm us. The next morning, soon after the sun rose over the hill, a large band of soldiers came into the village, and we all went into the houses and sat down. We were not long seated when the soldiers came rushing in and shouting, threatening Niendo with their guns. They rushed into the house and dragged the people out. 3 or 4 came to our house and caught hold of me. Also my husband, Oleka, and my sister, Katinga. We were dragged into the road and were tied together with cords about our necks, so that we could not escape. We were all crying, for now we knew that we were to be taken away to be slaves. The soldiers beat us with iron sticks from their guns and compelled us to march to the camp of Kabilonga, who ordered the women to be tied up separately, 10 to each cord, and the men in the same way. When we were all collected, and there were many from other villages whom we now saw, and many from Waniendo, the soldiers brought baskets of food for us to carry, and some of which was smoked human flesh. We then set off marching very quickly. My sister Katinga had her baby in her arms. It was not compelled to carry a basket. But my husband Oleka was made to carry a goat. We marched into the afternoon when we camped near a stream, where we were glad to drink, for we were much athirst. We had nothing to eat, for the soldiers would give us nothing. The next day we continued the march, and when we camped at noon, were given some maize and plantains, which were gathered near a village from which the people had run away. So it continued each day until the 5th day, when the soldiers took my sister's baby and threw it in the grass, leaving it to die, and made her carry some cooking pots which they found in the deserted village. On the 6th day, we became very weak from the lack of food and from constant marching and sleeping in the damp grass. And my husband, who marched behind us with the goat, could not stand up longer, and so he sat down beside the path and refused to walk more. The soldiers beat him, but still he refused to move. Then one of them struck him on the head with the end of his gun, and he fell upon the ground. One of the soldiers caught the goat, while 2 or 3 others stuck the long knives they put on the ends of their guns into my husband. I saw the blood spurt out, and then saw him no more, for we passed over the brow of a hill, and he was out of sight. Many of the young men were killed the same way, and many babies thrown into the grass to die. A few escaped, but we were so well guarded that it was almost impossible.